Hello. I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, Herd, and welcome to another episode of NerdyVerse.
Welcome back to another episode where we've lost our keys.
So much nerd and verse happening lately, but hopefully folks have been enjoying it. We haven't gotten extensive complaints, so I assume that's a good thing.
Not extensive ones.
Yeah, just a few,
just family members, close acquaintances.
And it's mostly just Jesus. Jesus always has a couple of complaints against me, but you know what? I'm human. He understands. He knows me. Me and the J-Man are cool. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Jesus. We're here to talk about American Jesus. Steve Rogers.
Oh.
No,
American Jesus is Mr. Rogers.
This intro is something else. But yeah, so we mentioned it in our last episode, but in case you haven't been watching all of our content, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we talked about Bird and Buggy, a.k.a. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a.k.a. Captain America
and the Winter Soldier.
And had a lot of fun. It was a great conversation. We didn't even talk about everything, but, you know, it is what it is. We already hate putting out I already hate putting out hour-long episodes, but...
Listen, man, we were too busy being SWJs.
Yeah, apparently. We were
SW... No. Social Warrior Justice. Social SJW.
Social Warriors. That's my job title. Anyway, so with that entry into the legacy of the character of Captain America, we wanted to use that opportunity. I've been wanting to go through with the MCU for a while now, so it seemed like that was a perfect opportunity. You know, we did talk about WandaVision, but they have kind of been accessories to the Avengers, so they don't really have a film series to talk about, whereas with going through the new Captain America and the Winter Soldier, we have a history behind that. And in fact, that's a big part of the plot of the show, is dealing with the legacy of the original Captain America, Steve Rogers. And so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to plant ourselves and talk about that. Your favorite Avenger hero stuff?
My favorite Marvel superhero, as well as my favorite Marvel movie, is a Captain America movie. Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like that has a lot to do with Chris Evans.
It has a lot to do with Chris Evans.
And I feel like that's going to come up a lot. And I don't mean that to sound like I just mean like I cannot imagine anyone else having done this and doing it so well.
Yeah. Well, Sebastian Stan auditioned for Captain America.
Really?
Yep.
That's ironic.
Right.
We want you to. Well, I mean, it's kind of a thing where it's like you're not quite clean enough for that, but we have a job for you.
You're too Romanian.
Well, it's one of those things where it's just like, you couldn't pull off Captain America, but you could easily counter him. So it was really a compliment of like, hey, you can beat him up in the next movie. So
you want to punch Chris Evans in the face?
Meanwhile, we kind of talked about it here and there before, but most of my Marvel experience is mostly Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I grew up, I was a huge Spider-Man fan. I did watch Hulk and Iron Man shows. They had animated shows as well that were really good. Yes. And of course, they were some of the earlier attempts at film were Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Hulk. Mm-hmm. Odd how that worked. And then, of course, like X-Men and all of that stuff. So those were my, like, superheroes growing up. I wouldn't say I was the hugest Marvel fan.
Yeah.
So when it came to Captain America, I mean, obviously knew of him. You can't not, but I didn't really care. I honestly, part of the only thing I was interested in is how they explain how Chris Evans plays two characters in the MCU. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, they ignored the redheaded stepchild that was Johnny Storm and those two first outings of the Fantastic Four, which are better than the one outing of the Fan Four Stick. So it's just...
It's so stupid.
So special.
It's so stupid. I forgot how stupid
it's
that
like the people that want this to be Cat for America or something like that, or Captain for America, or some weird.
How about just go with
Stop
our
putting
title,
numbers in words.
Bird and Bucky. That's it.
They've never put a number to these films. I thought that was
Iron Man 2.
to these films.
Okay.
Goodness gracious.
I thought you were talking about MCU films.
Gosh,
But...
film Twitter just waiting to pounce on me. Okay. No, these films have never gone by that. They've gone with a subtitle. And I do appreciate like the idea of the First Avenger, which the cutscene for the ending of this one is basically just a trailer for the Avengers.
Yeah.
And in fact, it didn't hit me until watching the behind the scenes of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier that I was like, they still didn't know if this was going to work, because they were like, when they were talking about the original Captain America, the first film, they were like, yeah, if we ever get to do a sequel, we'll definitely do Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, that wasn't sold? That wasn't given? Like, what? What do you mean? All they knew is they were going to culminate in Avengers, and that might have been it. That, like, and what's crazier about that is that this is coming up on its 10th year. 10th anniversary. Yeah, the first Avenger is almost 10 years old. It'll be 10 in July. So it's a lot to soak in.
Why would you age me like that?
I mean, timeline's timeline. But all in all, when you add up the sum of it all, it is a bit longer than it feels like. And I think that rewatching the trilogy, first, it's hard to call it a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard with any of these Marvel movies to a point to call them trilogies. I think Iron Man's is the most contained. The first two Captain Americas, I really do feel bleed into each other and feel like sequels, whereas Civil War doesn't as much. And I know a lot of people call it like Avengers 1.5 or whatever, or no, 2.5, because it was after Ultron or whatever. It is what it is. I think it's a Captain America movie in the end, but it just feels like so much more has happened between 2 and 3 that it's harder to just jump in and feel like the cast, the story and everything. It feels like you have to watch other things.
Yeah.
Whereas with Iron Man, not so much. With Thor, a little bit, but I feel like by and large, it's weird enough and to the side enough that you can enjoy Thor kind of contained as well.
You can definitely do like a yada 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 of it.
Right, whereas with Civil War, you kind of have to pack in a little bit, or you have to remind yourself a little bit. Like if you're not watching all of the films together, now if you watch it that way, everybody feels so much bigger than they are. It's like only 3 movies and Robert Downey Jr. is dead, or Iron Man. Tony Stark is dead.
Don't do that.
No, he's not. He's fine. Last I checked. I don't know. I haven't been to the basement in a while. So. But like 3 movies, it's just like, But then when you do add in the Avengers, when you do add in like Civil War, when you do add in the other guest appearances and all that, it feels like, no, we have had these characters a while, so it actually feels more right when they retire.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. I mean, it's hard. I think that an okay criticism of like the MCU movies is like hard to sit down with just one.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have your favorites, but it's like a lot of just like, if you just pick one randomly and you haven't watched too much or don't keep up with everything, you will be thoroughly confused.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like you do, if you're wanting to get the story, you have to watch everything and you have to watch it in order.
It's like Danganronpa. You look away for 5 minutes and you're lost.
Everybody's, it's just it's moved very fast.
That's not how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it.
So as far as the Captain America Trilogy, so it starts off with the First Avenger, obviously teasing what's to come and everything, and that's even crazier how big that's gotten. And Endgame was a perfect example of that. Of Avengers Assemble used to apply to just a couple of guys, like 5 guys that one time in New York. Now it means hundreds of people, and I don't think they passed out like Avengers club cards to all those people, but like a good majority of them can be considered part of the team now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely progressed, but I think that Captain America: The First Avenger is still one of the best origin story films.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they do a great job of making it worth seeing where this character comes from. And I think it's a great opportunity they take to build what the MCU Captain America is going to be like. I wasn't a huge fan of Captain America outside of these films.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I assume that much like most of the MCU, he's an amalgamation of various appearances of the character. He's not just this one version from that one comic.
It's complicated. Like most things in the MCU, I have a non-story about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So this is purely just because I was reminded when you were talking about watching it. When we went to go see it in the theater, it was me, it was Josh, my brother, and Ryan, my brother, and Justin, my brother, all three of my brothers. I don't know why I felt
my
the need
brother,
to
my
clear-
brother, my brother, and me.
my brother, my brother, my brother, and me. And we went to the theater, and I remember so clearly us getting out of the car. No, not even getting out of the car. But Josh was driving, and he clipped another car on the way into the parking spot. And I don't remember why. That's like one of the main things I remember about going to see that movie. It was a great movie. We had a great time. We were like one of 3 people in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like I said, it's a non-story.
I mean, it's
ADHD
weird.
brain went, you gotta tell this story.
It's just
not
weird
a story.
how like certain things can latch on. Sometimes like there's things so closely associated with a property.
It was a white SUV. I remember
like
that.
You retained everything.
It was funny.
It
We told Josh
wasn't
about
until
it.
2013 that I saw this. I know that much. I remember exactly where it was at Lake Junaluska in 2013. So.
Wonder what happened then.
Yeah, that's more of an us thing than you guys. I'm just saying. But it goes to show again how no, I can recall exactly where I saw this the first time.
That's the first time I watched Zombieland too.
Oh, there you go. I wasn't there for that one.
No, you're not. You're left.
So, but yeah, I feel like they had to do a lot of work in the beginning to establish. I mean, obviously there's certain character traits that you're gonna include, but there's a lot you have to change to make the lofty goal of interconnecting these films and creating a gargantuan series. Like there's certain things you have to do that benefit the whole, not just the one. And I think that was what was interesting about early Marvel days, is it was so much more unique when they would connect things like that. Now it's just given. It's going to connect to everything else. But here, seeing the choices that they would make to benefit the future, like things that happen here benefiting Civil War, benefiting, Iron Man, and so forth. It's definitely a worthy, and I feel like that's the thing, is you have to justify origin stories anymore. Like, why do we need to know where they come from if it's a well-known character?
Yeah.
And I feel like it comes from this of just, well, we're building our version. Like, obviously beats are similar, but I actually appreciate they didn't spend most of the history of Captain America fighting Nazis. That's not the thing anymore.
Although I do enjoy a good Nazi punch.
Well, it has to include that. Like, it has to start there, because that's
where the story
that's
started.
where the character starts. But I appreciate that they're like, that's not the whole thing. That's not his whole deal, because he's not just propaganda. We want an actual character.
Yeah.
And I think that is a true thread throughout the rest of the films as well. But yeah, I think it's great. The Captain America movies have always had a benefit of being very realistic and very open access, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little less sci-fi. Like, it almost, I mean, you could watch it along like Indiana Jones or something. Like, it's as weird as Indiana Jones.
That's the comparison I was about to make.
Both have Nazis.
Exactly.
Both, weird
and a
stuff.
Lot of punching.
What's worse, the Ark of the Covenant or Red Skull? Like, yeah, I don't know. They kind of go together.
I'll say, like, that's kind of what drew me into this movie at first, was, like, it's just weird enough.
Yeah.
Like, you got super soldier serum. I love the concept of that. But you also have, like, I don't know, Nazis getting punched in the face. I'm a big fan. What can I say?
Well, and I don't expect to call out very specific things throughout this much. I mean, we're mostly just talking through the legacy of the character and everything, but that, his whole vibrato of just like, of course, I've punched Hitler, countless times.
Yeah.
Like, that's a line that sticks with me. I appreciate that. But, oh my gosh, I spaced out. What was I going to say?
I don't know. Welcome to my life.
Well, this is in the early days when I think they were still trying really hard of trying to ground it a little bit. They didn't want to go full comic book. Because, if you watch this and then imagined they were going to do Ant-Man and years later, like
Thor Ragnarok.
well, even doing Thor, they did a lot in the first Thor to really kind of like level it out,
Mm-hmm.
only to by the third one be like, no, we're putting all of that back in. Like
Screw you,
all the nerf
Jeff
goes back in,
Goldblum.
right? So it's like this is definitely one of those where it's just like it's Indiana Jones, where it's like it's a very real story, but it's also got some weird.
Yeah.
And this is a very real story with a little bit of weird, and I like it.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned like the super soldier serum. So again, we see that the after effects of that still plaguing the world in whatever year it happens to be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because I keep forgetting about that 5-year jump.
I think 2025.
I don't know. Well, no, because Endgame was 2019, so it'd be 5 years before that.
2024.
So yeah. So I mean, 1 year's difference, but you know, and then again, I could be completely wrong. I don't know. But either way, like it's still a purveying issue of this idea of creating or recreating either Steve Rogers or Red Skull.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of this super-powered, super-minded individual that could turn the tide and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which was a thing that was actually happening in World War II. Was like there were experiments being run on soldiers to be like, how can we make these people faster? How can we make
that
these
was
people
one of the
stronger?
things we were going to talk about, or I wanted to give time to talk about with Isaiah Bradley,
Yeah.
with Black Captain America, essentially.
Yeah.
Like that seems so far fetched that they would do that, but it's
straight
really
up
not.
happened.
Like that legitimately happened.
Dude,
Um,
during the Vietnam War, there were so many experiments being
well,
run.
it was a lot of just like such ridiculous tactics for whatever would
Yeah.
win, and I mean that's kind of even the basis of this. Like
Mhm.
I mean, obviously it predates it a little bit, but like the same idea of there was always kind of
Yeah.
like this background research being done of, all right, how can we win like that in a way nobody's thought of,
Yeah,
and all this other stuff.
I said Vietnam. I meant World War II.
Well, but and a lot of that had to do with like drug tests and everything.
Yeah.
LSD tests on soldiers and everything.
Do yourself a favor and do a Wikipedia deep dive.
Yeah, like there's a lot that would give grounds to this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, replace super soldier serum with cocaine. It's the same movie.
Did I ever tell you about the LSD dolphin tests?
I think so. I think yeah.
It's for another time.
So I mean, other than really setting up the kind of character that Captain America is going to be, and I think early on he could have the criticisms of being a golden boy. I think especially in this first film they go for that. But what's more interesting, I don't think it's bad to have a golden boy character.
No.
I don't. What I like is when you put that golden boy in non-golden situations, which they immediately do with the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference, and I know comic book fans are going to criticize me if any of them listen or anything, but like they don't do that enough with Superman, which is one of my biggest criticisms, is they don't do enough to take a perfect character like him and put him in imperfect situations.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, he's kind of just the savior. And Zack Snyder sort of tries, but even still, they make him out to be Jesus, so it's still like really weird and doesn't land for me all the time. Whereas with Captain America, I really feel like a lot of his struggle is just because of his moral compass versus the world around him.
Yeah, there's something that I love about Steve Rogers and Captain America as a whole is that he is a rule breaker. He is very much...
He breaks the rules for the rules.
Exactly. He has such like strong moral personal rules that he is just like, you know what? No, I'm Captain America. I can do something else.
And that's the thing too, is like basically he just hijacked the motif. Like it was Captain America was a character. It wasn't a persona he chose or anything. It's just literally what he knew and had when he went on his first quote unquote mission.
Yeah.
And it just stuck. After that, it just stayed with him. Like, and I think that's the significance of why. Like, yeah, they call him Captain America. Everybody knows him as that, but he's Steve, and people that know him, he's Steve. Like, I appreciated the separation they established eventually with his character.
And you cannot tell me that on the walk back from the camp that they were held captive in, that Bucky did not relentlessly bully him that entire time. Like,
right.
Captain America?
Right.
Really?
Right.
You did what? I love their relationship so much.
Oh yeah,
as a whole.
And that's the thing. I mean, seeing where Sebastian Stan's gotten to grow. I mean, and it's again something we didn't get to talk about when reviewing the show.
Yeah.
Really, other than this, I never had much favor for Bucky or Winter Soldier, just because he was a cool character and that was kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what they were going to do with that, and over time he has grown up a little bit, but he's always been to the side so much that he hasn't really gotten to flourish. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the first show since the first Avenger to really give Sebastian Stan time to play the character Bucky and the Winter Soldier.
It's so sad because he's such a great actor.
He is.
Like, he's been in so many fantastic films. Where's his Emmy / Oscar /
It's imaginary
Academy
anyway.
Award?
None of that stuff matters.
Yeah, actually, that's accurate.
But and speaking of, he had several scenes throughout. We mentioned a couple, but like there are several scenes throughout Falcon and the Winter Soldier where he gets to really show off and he gets to act like this is.
He acts his butt off.
Yeah, like he treats it like anything, and that's the kind of person you want to include in your kind of projects, is someone that treats every project like it's worthy, and everything. But here their chemistry is great. I do wish we got more. I do wish we were able to get more Bucky and Steve. That's what's kind of tragic about everything.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's so significant to building out Sam and Bucky's relationship later, is because they get to have what Steve and he had and lost. It's like a rebuilding of that relationship.
I saw a quote from an interview with Sebastian Stan talking about how like he didn't talk much to anyone else in the MCU. Like he would go sit in the corner and a lot of stuff. So what they started doing was pairing him up with Anthony Mackie in interviews and stuff like that. And that is really sweet because that really like brought him out of his shell. It's
they have such great chemistry together. And they'll come up.
I love it so much.
Anything other significant as far as the first Avenger for you?
I really liked Red Skull.
I do too. I hate that Hugo Weaving had a horrible time.
Right?
Like what?
I feel so bad for him.
Here's the thing though. Okay, here and Transformers, he had a lot of. Well, I won't put this on the same level as Transformers, but he had a lot of negativity for Transformers, and he also didn't have a good time here.
That's fair.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to quantify those together, but you wouldn't tell by his acting, though.
Right?
Like,
yet again, he acts his butt off.
Good for him that he doesn't let it affect his job. He still earns his check, but I just hate that he didn't have as much of a good time. I don't know if it was the prosthetic. I don't know, but he's definitely been like, no, that was not what I wanted to do. Like,
he did so great.
He's such a thespian that it makes sense. Like when you see his kind of career, to see him as the voice of Megatron doesn't make sense. It never did. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love his performance as Megatron. It just doesn't make sense for an actor like him to do that.
It's insane. Like, he's Megatron. He's Red Skull. He's
Mr.
Smith.
Yeah.
Like, he has so many fantastic nerd characters.
Yeah, I wish he loved them all.
It's so upsetting.
I appreciate more that he's still out there, the character of Red Skull.
Yeah.
I wish I would have looked up who did an impressive Hugo Weaving impression for Endgame and Infinity War, but I appreciate that he's still out there somewhere. I appreciate that there's some...
he's in a Snuggie on the moon.
There's a chance. There's a chance. I don't know.
So
would be cool.
There's a chance?
Would be cool.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't want to linger too much on the Nazi thing. I really think, and like that's Red Skull's whole thing. Like when you think about the fact that Red Skull's in so many like animated Avengers content, like it's kind of weird because like I don't know, because we don't spend a whole lot of time being like, why Red Skull's the bad guy?
He's a Nazi.
So it's like I get them wanting to be like, hey, let's not do too much of the Nazi. Like they even make it out like Hitler doesn't even like this guy in the movie. So it's
Here's
just
the
like
thing. Controversial statement. Nazis suck.
Oh yeah,
like,
and that's not controversial. I mean, it's a controversial like amongst Nazis, but we don't care about those people.
Exactly. You suck. Get off my podcast.
Don't be horrible. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I wish he did have a good time, but he was great. The makeup's great. I love the look that they went for.
It's fantastic.
I would have liked a little bit more squaring up between them. They get a fight, they get a scuffle, but he's supposed to be equivalent to Captain America, so I would have liked that to show off a little bit more. But again,
Yeah.
it's Hugo Weaving. I think he had enough with the Matrix where he was just like, yeah, that I don't do the physical stuff anymore. I'm not doing that,
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson. So yeah, like great movie.
Great.
They obviously we realize now in retrospect, but they really got it lucky with getting Chris Evans for this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can't imagine. Like, I love seeing that Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, is Captain America now.
Absolutely.
I love seeing that, but like seeing, knowing that that came from a foundation of a character, like
Yeah.
that came like as we spent a lot of time talking about, he the foundation wasn't, hey, here's this white guy handing this black guy this thing for posterity. It was, no, here's a good person handing a good person this mantle.
Yeah.
And so I think it was really interesting to think about how we wouldn't have a quantifiable measure of Captain America, not because of the America part, but like the hero, the leader, the good
morality.
person. Yeah, we wouldn't have a measure of that if it wasn't for Steve Rogers and if it wasn't for the acting behind the character, but from
Absolutely.
Chris Evans. Like,
He did such a great job.
it's perfect casting. It's
He's one of
phenomenal.
my favorite people.
What
He also changed like the look for superheroes like forever.
do you
I
mean?
think like being a thick boy,
Oh.
being Dorito shaped.
Well, I will say also though, well, we're moving into it, but I feel like there was a little bit more thickness in the movies than there was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier for some
Yeah.
characters.
Well, like you see the shift in physique after this movie.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty significant. Like Robert Downey Jr. He looked great. He looked great, but he wasn't like bulging muscle.
Yeah, he wasn't beefy.
Yeah, but like after that, you have Thor being his hench self. You have everybody with muscles.
I appreciate they
like-
didn't spend too much time on that though.
No.
I mean, that was basically the first Thor, but they
Yeah.
didn't spend too much time on that. But I will say he did a great job of
Absolutely.
looking like a super soldier. I mean, like it's hard
Yeah.
to know what that would look like, but I believe he could lift that helicopter.
Do you want to hear something freaking nuts
Sure.
that I found out about recently? So apparently, when male actors are going to do like a shirtless scene, they're hench and muscly, they do a water fast where they don't drink water for 3 days
Mm-hmm.
to make their muscles stand out more.
Hmm.
What the heck is up with that?
There's a lot of crazy techniques for photo shoot things. That's why like
Jeez Louise.
there's no such thing as like instantly photo ready. Like there's so much work that goes in before doing photo shoots. I'm not saying right or wrong. I just mean like, yeah, it's really, really weird to get into the ins and outs of
Insane.
like model photography like that and
Yeah,
everything.
like models before they do a photo shoot, they don't
Well,
eat.
I mean,
A lot
I
of
feel
them.
like I was gonna say, yeah, I feel it's not all, but like, and similarly, like you mark on the calendar when, oh, this is Captain America shirtless day, which we never got. I appreciate. I
Yeah.
do appreciate. Like we get that once, and that's the first
I think
time.
it's a boob touch.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, what's funny is they bring back the touch from Paul Rudd in Civil War, and I appreciate that because that's one of the first things I would do is just be like,
Exactly. Are
wait,
those real?
right?
Like,
It doesn't look that. So, but
No.
like, but yeah, like they mark on the calendar of like, no, this is physical day. So like they prepare for that day completely different than when he wears the suit and does the act. Like,
yeah.
and those are the ins and outs that I love of like discovering not the things people
Yeah.
do. I don't think they would have done poor practices like that. I hope not. But either way, like I love the ins and outs though of what goes in because you feel like you just show up, shoot a thing, and go, and then
Yeah.
the guys in the computers, hunch over and do
Yeah.
all the editing and
I
blah
only
blah blah.
found out about it because Henry Cavill talked about it on an interview for The Witcher.
Really? So
Yeah.
he was doing that for The Witcher.
Yes!
Oh. Hmm.
Insane! Please
See,
drink water,
now,
Henry
so-
Cavill.
Same with him though. Physicality wise, looks like
Nuts.
Superman. So like I feel like both Henry Cavill and yes, this is DC praise. Henry Cavill as Superman,
Fantastic.
iconic casting. Not
great.
rivaled since Christopher Reeves. But then, like, this is the thing. This is going to be forever marked in history as Captain America. I don't want to think about 30 years from now when we get a new MCU and they redo everything. I can't think of anybody else doing it.
No, it'd be like if we were Bond fans, and someone took up the mantle from Roger Moore or something like that. Who's the guy? Sean Connery. I'm not a Bond
What are you
fan. I don't know who, like,
talking
the original Bond is.
Sean Connery.
Okay. Well, like, I guess it would be something like that.
Yeah. And I feel like it'd be the same weirdness for sure. So the first Captain America movie is definitely, like I said, it's a lot of just establishing the character, establishing the golden boy, the moral compass of the character. Because essentially from here on out, he's replanted in a very, very different environment, very different political structure, very different even power structure, because essentially he comes back in and we get Avengers New York. Like we get the interdimensional, intergalactic scale battles. We're going from punching Nazis to punching aliens. It's a very stressful job.
And since we mentioned Avengers, one of my favorite scenes from that movie is when he's given like the instructions to the cops and they're like, why should we listen to you? And then he like decks an alien out of nowhere and then they're like, okay,
right,
moving on.
Who's this guy? And then
that's Captain freaking America.
Right.
That's America's butt.
What's interesting then is to turn around and do a very grounded again Captain America movie. And so if the first one's about building up who this character is, this next one's about challenging who he is and about whether or not he can stick to his guns. And I mean, in retrospect, again, when you're digesting it all as it's coming out and all that, like it's a very different experience to watch it all back to back to back now.
Yeah.
Because it's so quickly that they turn on heel and so the organization we're supposed to trust, SHIELD, is compromised and disbanded. Like that happens in the second Captain America movie. We just had Avenger. Like it moves very fast when you go back to back like that. In reality, there's been some time where he's been SHIELD's agent. You know, he's been kind of the face of SHIELD. And everything, while everybody else is kind of on their own adventures, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, and all that, Captain America sticks around and does the good old soldier boy stuff of, serving his country. And what this film represents, I think, is the idea that our beliefs maybe are misfounded, and when we discover that, what do we do with that? He has to deal with, again, SHIELD being compromised. Can he trust anyone in SHIELD? Can they trust anyone in the government? What do they stand for anymore? And then, when he thought he knew about his friend, Bucky's no longer Bucky, and it's a very close and personal struggle of, okay, do I do the good soldier thing? Do I do the right thing and treat it like a mission, or do I do the right thing and try and help who I know is not the Winter, like he's not the same person.
Yeah.
Bucky is not the Winter Soldier.
And I think Steve here is having a huge crisis of like, that's the only thing I have left is Bucky. But what do I do? Like,
yeah, well, and that's the thing is like, they have each other. Like, ultimately, the only frame of reference for who could believe them. The only one who could believe Bucky is Bucky, not the Winter Soldier, is Steve. And the only one who has any connection to Steve anymore would be Bucky.
Yeah.
So it's this struggle to try and rescue that, protect that, because that's getting sacred.
I'll make a confession here.
Okay.
I was not a huge fan of Black Widow before this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will. She gets some good stuff here.
Like I wasn't a huge.
You didn't like
I didn't like the personality.
Tight-fitting spandex and kicky flippies. And...
I'm not a huge fan of characters who are coded as girl, and that's their entire personality. I think that was a lot of her in Iron Man 2. She is a girl who kicks butt, absolutely. But until this point, I had that image in my mind of her, she's just, which is internal misogyny, I know.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of found at the first appearance and the first outing. I mean, whether it's the cover or not, I mean, it's very much playing on the looks and a lot of that. What's good to see is where they grow from there, and I do think this is one of the first times they get characterization. So she's not just subservient to Fury. She's not just the sidekick to Tony. Now she's a character and a friend to Steve.
And that's what made me like her, is not just the characterization, but the writing, the friendship that is actually between Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans.
They good
job.
chemistry with each other. They have, whether they pick them for their chemistry, I doubt that, but like either way, like clearly the ability for them to build that chemistry benefits the film and the storytelling for sure.
All of Team Cap has insane chemistry together. I love it so much.
I feel like that was a good move for her too, is moving her over to Team Cap along with Falcon and eventually obviously like Bucky and everything. I mean, I think there's a better chemistry there for those characters than with Tony. I feel like him, Rhodey, and Pepper are kind of the trio. I don't think anything else fits in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
just don't like Gwyneth Paltrow. That's it.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not a huge fan of her or her candles. But I think she does a great job as Pepper, though.
She's a great actress.
I was surprised how over time she made me like her even more.
Yeah. That last scene in Endgame.
Well, Iron Man 3 too. They really do a lot with it's something that gets better with time, and I think that's just a footing thing of, all right, there's choices that are very much a action movie choice, and then there's choices that are very much this is going into the mythos. This is building 10 movies behind it. Like, if the choices we make now are going to affect other things. Hence why they would partner her, I think, up with a character like Steve, where that's a little bit more her game. Yeah. I mean, she's always been the S.H.I.E.L.D. lapdog anyway, so it only makes sense that she would continue to do so alongside the new kind of dog of the military of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is Captain America. And I appreciate, and again, I mean, he gets I love the outfit on this one.
It's
I know,
great.
I don't think a lot of people liked it, but I like they scrapped the red, white, and blue and went for just like tactical blue and silver and everything.
Yes.
I liked that. I thought that looked good.
That first scene was so cool.
That like covert entry and everything. And he even gets a different deco on his shield. It's like all darker and everything. I liked that look. I like tactical Captain America.
Dude, Nomad outfit in
Same
Endgame.
Thing where like they just and that's the thing is like literally in his second a little bit of both. By the end of Endgame he's throughout, because he goes classic New York costume for that one. Anyway, but
welcome to my world.
Dadgummit, it happened again.
Let's talk about Bucky a little bit.
Sure, let's talk about Winter Soldier. I don't know what I was talking about. It gets so oh no, I was just gonna say again, it's the second movie, and they're distancing him from the red, white, and blue. They're putting distrust in him and his country. I appreciate that.
You reminded me of something. Go ahead.
I appreciate that they're not emphasizing it's not Captain America. Like, these movies aren't like, salute the flag and love the country and everything. Like, they shouldn't be. Like, the character served a purpose in its original foundings, but that's not the point anymore. Let Captain America be a character of their own, and let them reflect modern America. Let them reflect the fact that there's problems in America. It's not just this perfect, mecca of a country. Like, that's reality. Nowhere's perfect.
Yeah.
Not even Canada. They're lying to you. Not everywhere's perfect. I just mean everybody acts like, let's all go to Canada and it'll be better. It's like, no, it still sucks up there. Everywhere sucks.
They have Justin
The
Trudeau,
world
though.
sucks. Well, and they have a lot of great voice actors up there too. There's good. Here's the thing. There's good everywhere. There's bad everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the world we live in. So, pointing out issues in America and making a character not represent utter and infinite patriotism, I think is a smart choice. I think that's a real choice. And obviously, fast forward to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's given us great commentary and reflection of reality. Art is imitating life in a way that I think is significant right now. So
Absolutely.
You were reminded of a thing.
Yes, that elevator fight scene.
Oh, great!
Is one of the best fight scenes in the MCU, in my opinion.
This one steps up the game in general, but most of the Captain America stuff always has the best action in terms of like fighting, and I feel like it's because they're super soldiers, but they're not gods. Like, they're not just punch and you're done. Like, they still
Can't
have
just hit with hammer.
They still have to work. They still have to put in effort. But I will say this is one of the best of matching skill when you add in the Winter Soldier versus the Captain America fight, like in the streets, like that one.
Dude, I remember going to see this movie and freaking out at the knife fight, and it just like, that was so cool.
And that's the one I mean is the first fight they have, the first encounter.
So good.
The one on the helicarrier's cool too, and everything. But this one,
Yes.
I think they go harder because it's like, no, this is the first, this is the biggest, and we have to build it up so when that reveal at the end that it's Bucky, like all the air goes out of the tires.
I still just like sometimes go to myself, who the hell is Bucky? Just like think about it.
Right. Well, and it's just, I love that that's his reaction. It's just like, what?
What's a Bucky?
Right. Like you have no personality, but you have to ask that question when it like posed, like,
well, like, I think that's...
That's not my name.
That's not my name. My name is Winter Soldier. I have serial numbers.
Right.
Yeah, speaking of the helicarrier fight, I think that one is also fantastic. But, like, I feel like that one has a lot more emotional weight to it. Like, the whole line of, you know me. No, I don't.
Right.
It's just like...
No, I don't.
I'm not your dad.
Yeah, it's such a hissy fit, but it's so great. And yeah, I think they're just so great at evening them out and making it feel like they're matched.
Yeah.
And obviously Cap is like pulling his punches and everything because he's trying to save Bucky. And this builds in something too that I think sticks with Steve through until Civil War.
Yeah.
So before we jump there, anything else significant you want? I mean, we didn't talk too much about Falcon, but
we love him so much. He's the babe.
Seeing where he comes from here to where he is now is
insane.
Incredible. And some of the things we talked about, that's why it's worth for more significant like Sam Wilson exposition going to our other episode.
Say Sam Witwer.
No, I just have verbal dyslexia and it just mixes together.
Gotcha.
To go to our episode all about that, because we talk about how perfectly they established the future Captain America starting here, and you still see it from their interactions and everything. So
yeah, really really good humanizing of a character, being like, he's just a dude. And there's even the line in Civil War, I do what he does, just slower. Like,
right.
It's so great.
Yeah, and I mean, and Anthony Mack is such a great choice. Again, it's one where they got it right. They got it right, and I don't know what magic they pull to do what they do, but I mean, they keep pulling wins, and I think that was one that we thought, we wondered, we hoped would eventually pay off, and it's crazy that now it has. This is 2014. So even still, that's 7 years.
Yeah, I was about to say 6 years, but no, I just blocked out the last year of my brain.
Yeah, 7 years. So still, that's a long wait for a payoff. But I think it's so worth it.
I remember what I was gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the trope of like two people fighting, but one's not fighting as hard because they don't want to hurt the other person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the person in me who used to read fan fiction. Like I just
fart me. No, fart me.
I love you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think something builds here in Winter Soldier, this idea of following your heart and like doing what you know is right regardless of what the organization and structure you represent says.
Fight the power.
So, like, I don't think before Winter Soldier we would have thought he would have pushed the boundaries that much. But I think, you know, because of what we did get in Winter Soldier, it let him know that he needs to be willing to push further. If he thinks something is right and he disagrees with S.H.I.E.L.D. or the country or whatever, whoever they represent, he needs to be willing to push it. And that's what ultimately is the crux of Civil War, is him just saying no to the organization, to the accountability and all this other, like, he doesn't want to be and it's founded. He has trust issues with the government. He has trust issues with any of this. Like, you want us to be regulated, but like wasn't that what S.H.I.E.L.D. was, and wasn't Hydra deeply involved in that? Like, how are we supposed to trust anyone but ourselves? And it's a really interesting moral dilemma because, I mean, Rhodey calls out like that. That's very self-righteous and everything. But at the same time, it's just like, who better to make some of the right choices? Like, I feel like if they become instruments of the government, if they just become soldiers, then they have to follow whatever the order they're given. They have to do whatever.
And you mentioned Rhodey. I think we haven't talked about him much, but I love the transformation that he goes through throughout these entire movies. It's like in his first appearance, he's a completely different person.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like, wow, stop, get out.
Okay, I'll
but
see myself out.
Again, Captain America's got built-in anxiety issues with this sort of thing because of Civil War and
They're
everything.
fair.
Right. And so it really builds on the idea of, can we trust what we fight for? Like, and that's the thing, is what makes them any different than Winter Soldier if they just become, regulated by the government.
Mm-hmm.
They get pulled out whenever they're told to, they do what they're told to, and if they don't comply, then they just get sent back to the bunker. Like, I mean, like, what kind of life is that for a quote-unquote hero?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I don't think it's as ridiculous as Age of Ultron. I think this has more grounds for the conflict between the heroes than Age of Ultron does. Age of Ultron kind of pushes it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
If you guys would just talk to each other. Literally just talk to each other.
Communication is first and foremost in any relationship.
Right. Like, I get the bickering in the first Avengers,
Yeah.
but by the second one, guys, come on. Like, just talk. And don't just get quippy. Talk.
Yeah.
And it would have been a much shorter movie.
Stop offering people blueberries.
But here, I think it's more grounded because, so Tony and Steve are affected two different ways by their trauma. Again, Steve doubles down of like, no, we have to trust ourselves, we have to do what's right, and we have to be outside of the bounds. We have to represent everybody. We have to protect everybody, and we can't do that if we just are part of, America, or the UN, I guess is where the controlling power in this one. Whereas Tony, his trauma is seeing yet again the hurt that they've caused. So the whole thing for him in the first movie was, hey, my weapons are killing people.
Mm-hmm.
So weapons bad. I'm going to do everything I can to get rid of those and take down, corrupt people. Fast forward, Civil War is a very similar issue where, hey, now it's not Stark Industries, now it's Avengers.
Yeah.
And Avengers messed up, and I take that personally. And so he's projecting his trauma of like, no, we need people to keep us in bounds, otherwise we're going to mess up again. And I think that's kind of just his recovery brain too, of overreacting to a slip up, to where it's like, no, I need someone to make my choices for me because obviously I'll mess up.
Yeah.
And so versus Cap, where it's like, no, if they make their choices for us, we might get choices we don't like. Then what?
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense for both characters with everything we've seen. For them to fight over this and disagree on this and take two very harsh stances, I think makes sense.
It's one of those things like a poor kid versus a rich kid. Like, Steve grew up as a poor kid. He grew up not necessarily trusting the government, probably. And then you got Tony, who has no reason to distrust the government.
Well,
So
yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, he wanted to serve his country because he cared that other people were dying and he couldn't help.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't care. I'm not going to put it that way, but like, it wasn't about just, again, saluting America.
Yeah.
And
he didn't want to just fight.
He didn't want to be the Star Spangled Boy. He wanted to help people. Like, that's the thing. It was never about who he served. It's about the people he served. And so it's a very different posture and a very different walk. It's a very different practice when you have that sort of representation. So for him, yeah. And that's again where they distance Captain America from Steve Rogers. Because when you hear a name like Captain America should be the one most for this.
Yeah.
You should, you literally have a country in your name. Like, you should let that country dictate your every move, right? No, I'm Steve Rogers. Captain America just happens to be the dang persona that stuck. Like, that just happened. So, that distancing of human and hero is very nice as well.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, we get Zemo, another character that pays off in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Fantastic, beautiful character. Love him to death. Has a point.
His whole plight, it's very similar. It's about what he does with his trauma. So what he's doing with his trauma is he's hoping to disband the Avengers and simultaneously take out the Super Soldier Project.
Yes.
The Super Soldier part, I don't really get. It only works because of the Bucky thing. But, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the big defensible thing, the big thing is the whole, hey, my family died because the Avengers weren't there and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so what he's doing to turn on that to, yeah, the Avengers have to be stopped. Which is his whole thing. It's almost a very syndrome thing where it's just like,
If everyone's super, no one will.
yeah, it's kind of this idea of just like, no, I'm going to get rid of the heroes and I'm going to equip people to take care of themselves because that's what we need. We don't need more heroes because all y'all do is mess up. So it's very much that of just like, no, I'm going to get rid of the Avengers. And I'm not promising he had the plan of like, and then I'm going to help humanity. But I like to think that he would have done something with his barrenness.
Yeah. Not to be like a Bucky stan on Maine. I am. I know this. I'm aware of this. I'm in therapy. But like that scene where he's reading from the book at Bucky and reading the code words, it still hits hard.
Yeah, you can see, I mean, obviously now he would have been 5 years out from, no, not 5 years. I'm sorry, 2 years out from Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So, like, he's been on his own now. He's been kind of functioning at least. So it's like,
plums.
obviously he wants to keep that. Like, it's not ideal, but it's better than serving somebody.
They talked about it in an interview right after this happened, but the backpack that he loses in the chase scene was full of like notebooks of memories that he had written down.
Is that real?
Yeah, that's real. Yeah.
That sounds like a Twitter fan theory thing, but okay.
But like that,
I'd have to look that up. But yeah, I mean,
that hurts.
yeah. So he doesn't want to go back. Obviously, who would want to? But and so that comes to the personal thing of where Steve has the challenge of, even more so than standing against the Sokovia Accords, now putting his foot down and saying, like, not only am I not going to be relegated by the UN and government, I'm also not going to let y'all take the responsibility for my friend.
Yeah.
And so, again, the payoff of what built out in the last one of just like, hey, I don't agree with this call. I'm going to go about it a different way, to where now he's just altogether, hey, I don't agree with this call, and I'm going to stand against it. He literally goes outside the bounds to find Bucky and save him. And it's this matter of, like, so if Steve is the head, he's the brains. He's, no, well, I don't know. Yeah, he's the wisdom. He's the strength of character of the team and the Avengers and all that. Tony's the heart. Tony's the feelings. And that's what makes them both the leaders, I think. But that's where this movie suffers, because Steve's using his brain. They're not going to investigate. In their eyes, Bucky did it.
Yeah.
That they want to catch a guy. They don't want to find answers. They want to find the victim, or the criminal. Whereas, and then you add later on the whole Stark situation of Bucky killing his parents and everything. It's all this buildup of just like, you should have told me, we could have done, like, no, you wouldn't have listened. Because as soon as this all went down, Tony's all in his feelings and roadblocking everything. So of course Steve has to go outside the grid and take care of it himself, because no one else was listening. No one else that could have done anything was listening.
Yeah, there's so many fantastic emotional moments in this movie. Like, just, and then, there's that whole scene in the parking garage where they just get their outfits on, and Sharon and Steve kiss.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in the other thing too. Yeah,
how my distaste.
Yeah, he pulls out the classic Cap costume for this one. Yeah, because I guess he left the other one in the locker when he escaped S.H.I.E.L.D. and whatnot.
It'd be like that, man.
And yeah, we get a face off with majority of all the cast. I mean,
including New Edition.
Yeah, we get Black Panther.
Yeah.
And we get Ant-Man.
It's so insane that this was the first appearance of both Black Panther and Spider-Man in the MCU. That's one I was thinking
that's right.
of.
Yeah.
Like, yet another fantastic casting
And that's where
choice.
you start to feel like that point in the movie really starts to feel like an Avengers movie. Yeah, when you throw everyone in there. And then it's really just for the cool fight because only Steve and Bucky make it out. So, and obviously Tony chases after. But, like, in the end, like, it was for one big good fight. And then...
It is a very good fight.
It's good. It's interesting because, I mean, we always wonder, like, hero versus hero, what would happen, who would do what, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah, I love that the crux for the final, like, real big angry moment was Rhodey getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, Rhodey gets hurt.
I appreciate the stakes. I appreciate... I mean, obviously, they didn't take him out of commission. They shouldn't have. They did enough to add severity. But again, it's a matter of, okay, now my friend is hurt. Now I'm even angrier. Like, he's not listening. He's not going to listen to sense. Now he's just on this mission of revenge and proving he's right to Steve. Like, it's literally just that. And it's never about getting the right answers. And that's the difference. That's what Steve's after. Steve's after, it's not just protecting his friend. It's proving something.
Yeah.
If he did it, proving that, hey, it's not his control. And obviously, in the end, we know he didn't do it, so proving that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least T'Challa has more sense. Like, he picks up on the reasoning, and then he even chooses not to, well, he doesn't let Zemo kill himself, but, like, either way, he has more self-control when it comes to being presented with new evidence than Tony does.
Yeah, actually. That's because
like,
T'Challa
oh my gosh.
has a brain on him.
And that's why I say he's all feelings. He's just all reactionary, Tony is. And so, and that's what gets us the final fight, too, though. And that's also very spanning and epic and everything, because when the news breaks of Bucky killed my parents, we spent all this time, dude. Mm-hmm. We have all this evidence that points that the Winter Soldier is not... He's a tool. He's not in his own control. He doesn't do anything on his own.
Yeah.
So, all that presented, all this progress, like, and then... What? So even after, okay, Steve was proved right because it was actually Zemo pretending to be big, like all of that, everything we've done, and in that one moment you just decide, no, I'm gonna kill him.
And I think that it's not a hand-waving explanation, but it is informed by the opening scene where he's at the college and he shows like the VR glasses. I get that.
I get being hurt by it. I get all of that. I just like, I mean, it's for the good fight. It's for the final crux that ultimately makes Captain America walk away, and kind of breaks up the Avengers a little bit. You know, I get all the setup. It's a heavy-handed thing. Is it in line with Tony's heavy-handed character?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's still just very much like, oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
Y'all just need to talk.
They
Y'all
don't
need to
call
go to
him
therapy.
Iron Man because he's light. You call him Iron Man because he's dense.
Right. So, but all in all, it's definitely Steve's journey. Again, it's pushing that boundary of, you know what? I mean, I'm Steve Rogers. I'm not. So if the first one is, I'm Steve Rogers, I'm a good soldier. The second one is, I'm Steve Rogers, I'm a good person. And then the last one is, I'm Steve Rogers, I'm my own person.
I'm Steve Rogers, screw you.
Right. Like this one's very much just like, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, I'm not going to be tied down to the Avengers, the UN, anything. Like, at the end of the day, I'm going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
He continues to do the right thing after this. He doesn't stop that just because he stopped being Captain America. Yeah. We see in the beginnings of Infinity War, he's still been at it. Mm-hmm. He's still doing Captain America things, just not as Captain America.
And this is also the third confirmed time that Bucky's lost his arm.
Third?
Yeah. First time in the Hydra facility. Second time, Isaiah Bradley. Third time, here.
But he said he almost lost his arm.
Oh, no, he ripped his arm off.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Wait, so, well, hang on, though, but was he the one that took... No, they showed when they woke him back up from the ice, they'd given him the arm. Okay. Yeah. I was kind of hoping that Isaiah took his actual arm. That would have been Give
me your arm.
Right. I mean, technically, headcanon, that could still work. But
people who would get along. Rocky Raccoon. Right. Isaiah Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
Io. She likes also removing people's arms.
Right. They all get along. They all have more arms than they should.
That scene wasn't supposed to be funny, but I thought it was hilarious.
Which one?
When Io, like, unlocks his arm and makes it fall off. It's just like, I am Mrs.
What do you do with that? Like, what? Like, you...
I think, like, definitely hurt in his face, but also, like, that happens?
Right, like, I didn't know we could do that. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, I think that ultimately the trilogy stands as a testament to breaking out of the restrictive bounds of what is in a name, Captain America, what is in what we understand about a character. I think they've done a great job with, especially this, but in a lot of MCU, making characters, making good people, and that's why they are who they are. Not because of title and cool costumes and power, even. It's about who they choose to be, and that's always been something Stanley's wanted to convey anyway.
Absolutely.
Is anybody's a hero when they're a good person, and you said as much in our Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode. So I think there's forever going to be a testament to the work of Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. I think it's defined a lot of things about heroism and film and
Patriotism
all
versus
that
nationalism.
stuff. Yeah, like, there's so much packed in, and it can be read so many different ways. But all in all, I think it's a journey of moving past what we think we know about these characters. And MCU's always been pulling twists and turns. Every time you think you understand who they are and the kind of things they're going to do and choices they'll make, they surprise you. They do something different, and I think that's good. I think it's what keeps MCU good.
Yeah, and the main, thing about the Captain America trilogy, I think, is confirming that Bucky is all right.
Nobody laughed.
I laughed.
And well, keep it to yourself. And obviously, we didn't talk about the ending of Captain America because that's an Avengers thing.
He's on the moon. He's just on the moon, guys.
I definitely don't think he's dead yet, but
no, they wouldn't kill Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, that's technically where the character ends. But as far as the character's journey in other films, we're going to talk about the Avengers films on their own at some point, including, like, it'd be impossible to include them anywhere because they have everybody in it.
Yeah,
so
there's so many characters, man.
Right, so there's nowhere else to include it except in its own Avengers discussion. So that's way down the road. As we mentioned, we've got Iron Man and Thor discussions and Spider-Man discussions throughout this year. Don't get overwhelmed. That's not all at once.
I'm always
that's
overwhelmed.
down the road and eventually. But it'll be very similar to this, just talking about the legacy of these characters. I mean, we've gotten so many. It's been spanning so long at this point that there's a lot of growth. There's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to enjoy. So that's what we plan to do with these episodes, and hopefully you enjoy them.
Yeah.
Thank you to our patrons who pay for this. Thank you to our friends at Red5Network, podcasty people that are awesome and you should follow.
Yeah.
And thank you to our friend Jesse over at Game Infinite, keeping everybody informed and celebrated on game news and content, all that good stuff. Other than that, we are finally getting back to Star Wars this week as well because we are talking the long-awaited Bad Batch premiere.
Yes, we are. Long-awaited.
Yes. So, although this will release closer to May 4th, that it's just the way it works because the show comes out on May 4th. We're probably going to wait till May 5th to watch it. It's going to be a heck of a week, guys. Mm. But we will be talking about it this week, as will every other Star Wars nerd. So, if you happen to
get into it, fam,
put us in your ears for that discussion, we'll appreciate it.
We're very small. We'll fit right in.
I think NerdyVerse's next outing is to horror. We're talking about Saw, I believe. Yes. So that's going to be an interesting spin because that's going to be a whole new kind of content for the podcast.
We're going to watch so many YouTube videos.
Hopefully you'll tune in for the story and be able to have some sort of appreciation for it because that's what we're going to talk about is the story of Saw. And yes, there is one. So if you want to join us on that journey, be sure to tune in for when that comes out. And I think that's everything. I think that
one more thing. I want to give that joke another try. Bucky's all right. Get it? Because he lost his left arm. It was, you see, when in the original Captain America movie, he fell off a train, and when he got to the bottom, he broke his arm so bad that the Hydra cut it off, and then they gave him a metal arm, which got ripped off a couple times. Have you seen the Captain America movies? He's all right. He's all right.
I'm not.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.